Hey guys, I want to show you how we make our Salumi pizza. It's another red pie. It's very, very simple. It's got a simpler sauce than either the margarita or the nanas. It's got a good dose of some of our cured meats. I'm going to go over those in a second. Then it has two different kinds of olives on it. One of the olives is heavily spiced, and that's going to kick up the pie just a little bit. So it's very important on this pie to really get the measurements right. So I've pre-measured everything. You should definitely practice with your recipe sheets. The sauce on this is simple. It's not as herby as some of the other pies. It doesn't have any of those hard cheeses on it. I'm going to make sure I get most of that sauce closer to the edge and out of that center, because the meats are going to put a lot of oil, and that's going to flow to the center anyway. Just a pinch of oregano, that's it. A little bit more oregano on this pie than you're going to see on the Nana's pie. And now we get our mozzarella cheese. Now we're going to put on our two different cured meats. Now the first meat is finocchione, which is like a salami that has fennel. Finocchia means fennel. And what I'm doing with these slices of meat is I'm ripping them up just a little bit, putting them on the pie. You're going to see why that's important when we get to the next meat even more so. Just sort of layering these on. Now this last meat here, this is the important one. This is the Toscano. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to rip these so that it gets these little jagged edges, and I'm going to try and lean them up against the cheese and the other toppings, just so that these edges stick up and they crisp up and burn before the rest of the pie does. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to put on the olives. Again, let's like we do with every pie. We don't put things on evenly. We dollop things around so that different bites have little different textures and flavors. And that pie is great. It's going to go right in the oven now. You're going to see all of the oils come out of the meats. I'm going to create this nice, oily, rich texture in the mouth. Give it a little shake. Willie's getting my oven ready for me. Let's get it right in that center. Now, I do want to mention one thing about how this pizza bakes. Pizzas that have a lot of meats on them, which would include this pie, as well as some of the other pies you might make, such as pies that are just like a regular Nana's pie or a margarita pie that might have a lot of meat toppings on them. What I like to do is I like those to bake in the oven crispier, which means they should be at a slower temperature, they should be a little longer, and they should come out a little darker. So even as I'm sitting here, I have the oven door open, which is dropping the temperature, and that's just going to enable this pie to cook a little longer and slower. Now, of course, I have to juggle that concern against the concern of other pies that might be going into the oven, but I just want to show you what the ideal is, okay? So, actually, once I spin this pie around, I'm going to move it closer to the front of the oven, which is the cooler part of the oven. I probably should have placed it initially closer to the front of the oven, but we'll do that when we give it a turn, okay? Great. All right, I'm going to give my pie a spin. I'm going to place it a little closer to the front of the oven, just near the front. It's the coolest part of the oven. Let this go for a little longer and slower than some of our other pies. Let's take another look at our pie. Checking the bottom, looks great. Give it another spin, see the other side. Looking great. Just going to let it go a little darker, a little crisper. It's cooking very evenly, top and bottom right now. I don't have to put it on a screen. But I do want it to be darker, crispier, a little more burned than some of our other pies. Let's open the door and take another look. Okay, bottom still looks good. Let's take a look at it. Almost done. Now, for another pie, that would be overdone. But for this pie, just going to let it go a little more. Checking the bottom's perfect. No screen required. Perfectly balanced top and bottom. I used that water spray bottle. We did a great job balancing the oven this time. Let me check my oven temp here. Now, I had that door open a lot. I'm guessing this oven's quite a bit cooler than the 369. You can see it's actually 358. Just great for this pie. Okay, let's take this pie out now. You can see it's got a couple of blackened spots. And this is great for this pizza. You can see some of the oil came out. Just a great balanced pie. Let's cut it up. Now you can see this pie is definitely crispier, no doubt about it, right? I couldn't do this with a margarita. Just the way I'm lifting it and it's holding. It's because we did it a little slower and cooler in the oven. Let's give it a cut. See, the meats are a little leathery. We cut that Toscano much thicker than any of the other meats that we use in-house. As a general rule, the Salumis are cut paper thin, but that Toscano we cut a lot thicker than just about any other meat, than I would recommend really even for any other meat. And that little leatheriness of that meat is going to complement with the leathery texture that we got on the crust by baking it at a slightly lower temp. Ooh, hot. It burned my mouth, but other than that, it was perfect. The texture was just right. Take another bite. That meat is cut so that it's thick and leathery, almost more like a thicker piece of bacon. And the crust matches it great. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching.